An arrogant billionaire's son splashed dirty water on a poor old woman, unaware she was... A big puddle of dirty water splashed. The water flew up and hit an old woman who was standing by the side of the road. She had a small walking stick and wore an old faded dress. Now she was soaked, her face and body. The car stopped. The window slowly came down. Kwame leaned out, laughing loudly. "Old woman!" he shouted. "You should be lucky a Rolls-Royce just gave you a free bath." "Tea." Old woman didn't say a word. She looked at him, her eyes cold and calm like she was hiding her face. The woman closed her eyes for a second. Then slowly she reached up, palm closed. She held it tightly like it was something precious. Kwame paused, feeling like something bad was going to happen. That night, Kwame got home and acted like nothing happened. He took a shower. Everything felt normal. But when he finally closed his eyes and fell asleep, things changed. In his dream, Kwame was standing in darkness. He heard a soft, steady sound. Tap, tap, tap. He looked back. The old woman was walking slowly toward him. "Someone help me!" Kwame shouted. Then he saw two people standing in the distance. His parents. He ran to them as fast as he could. They looked at him sadly and said, "I'm sorry, son. We can't help you." "What? What?" Kwame cried. Then he saw something even scarier. His father's hands were tied with thick ropes. "No, no!" Kwame screamed. He turned around again. The old woman was now walking faster. Her face looked angry, but her eyes were calm. Too calm. Kwame turned and ran as fast as he could, and woke up with a loud gasp. But something was wrong. He wasn't in his soft bed. He wasn't even in his room. He looked around, confused. He looked at his clothes. Is he okay? Kwame's heart started beating fast. How did I get here? He couldn't stop. People kept staring as he ran barefoot through the street, his pajamas flapping in the wind. He ran all the way home, but one thought kept repeating in his mind. Something is very wrong. When Kwame got back home, his heart was still pounding. He entered the living room where some workers and guards stood. His mother stood by the stairs, looking worried. "There he is!" one of the maids shouted. His father turned to him sharply. "Kwame, where have you been? We've been looking for you for over an hour." Kwame stopped at the entrance, breathing hard. Everyone was staring at him. His wet clothes, his barefoot legs, his confused eyes. But he couldn't say a word. He slowly walked past them and went straight to his room. His father followed behind, frowning. "Kwame," he said. "What's going on?" Kwame sat on his bed, hands shaking. He couldn't believe what had happened. He closed his eyes, trying to calm his thoughts. Then finally he spoke. "Dad, something strange happened." "What do you mean?" Kwame looked up, scared. I had a dream. The same old woman I splashed water on. She was chasing me in the dream. I ran to you, but your hands..." Kwame's father stared at him for a long moment. Then he sighed. "Kwame, I don't have time for this. Maybe you were sleepwalking." Even his own mother looked unsure. With a heavy heart, Kwame went to get ready. 30 minutes later, he stood in a large office space. People whispered in low voices. The air smelled like coffee and perfume. Then it was his turn to speak. Kwame stood up, still feeling weak. His heart was still heavy from the strange morning. He opened his mouth to speak, but something was wrong. A foul smell filled the air. People around him moved back in their seats. A woman covered her nose. One man shook his head slowly. Kwame's hands began to shake. He turned and ran through the lobby, past the guards, and out into the street. He didn't stop. He ran all the way back home, heart pounding. At home, the news was playing. The video of him from the office was everywhere. His father was watching the news in the living room when Kwame walked in. Mr. Okoro stood up. Then it happened again. Spat. A big drop of spit landed right on his father's face. Mr. Okoro stepped back, stunned. "What did you just do?" Kwame's eyes widened. His lips trembled. I didn't mean to. I don't even know how that happened." His Father wiped his face slowly, staring at his son like he didn't know him anymore. Kwame's body started shaking. His hands moved on their own. His head felt dizzy. He couldn't control it. I didn't do it on purpose. But his father wasn't listening anymore. From that day, everything in Kwame's life changed. At first, it was just the strange dream with the old woman. But then it got worse. Every night when Kwame tried to sleep, he had nightmares. He was locked inside a dark room. The old woman watched him from the corner, her eyes glowing red. People at school avoided him. Some laughed behind his back. Others simply left him alone. Kwame felt like a shadow of who he used to be. His father tried to help. They prayed. They went to doctors. Nothing worked. Then the business started suffering. Once, the meeting room caught fire. Another time, the clients walked out without a word. One man even collapsed in front of Kwame. The same boy who used to laugh in a Rolls Royce now cried silently at night, afraid to close his eyes. Then one quiet afternoon, they visited a small village church. The place felt different. The pastor was a calm man with gray hair and deep eyes. He looked at Kwame and said, "You did something months ago to an old woman." Kwame's heart skipped a beat. His mouth went dry. I think I know what you're talking about. Tell me, the pastor said gently. I was driving back from the village. I splashed water on an old woman and laughed at her. Then I spat on her as well. As soon as he said those words, the light in the room flickered. The pastor nodded slowly. She's the one, he said. Kwame's father leaned forward. What do you mean? She's the woman tormenting your son, the one from his dreams. She didn't forget. Can we stop it? Kwame's father froze. Why would you do that to an old woman? He asked his son. I was just having fun, Kwame replied, his voice shaking. I didn't know she would take it so seriously. His father looked away, ashamed. What can we do? The pastor said. You must go and beg her for forgiveness. That's the only solution. Kwame stood up in shock. Beg her? No, I can't. It's the only way, the pastor said, looking directly at him. No amount of money can fix this. Kwame's father's face turned pale. Isn't there another option? Maybe a special prayer or sacrifice? The pastor shook his head. No, only her mercy can end this. Kwame sat back down, feeling defeated. He remembered her face, the way she wiped her eyes, the look of sadness and silence. The next morning, the sun had barely risen when Kwame and his father packed a few bags and got into the car. Their driver was quiet. The road ahead was long, and the air inside the car was heavy with silence. No one spoke. They were going back. At every stop, they asked people, Do you know an old woman who lives alone? She walks with a stick. She has no teeth. Most people shook their heads. Some looked away, like they didn't want to talk about it, but after many hours of searching, an old man with one eye said quietly, I think I know the woman you're talking about, but be careful. Not many go near her and return the same. Kwame and his father followed the old man's directions. They drove deeper into the forest. Finally, the road ended. We can't drive any further, Kwame's dad said. We walk. From here. Kwame looked around. The air was damp and cold. Dad, are you sure this is safe? What if something happens to us in here? His father placed a hand on his shoulder. We've come too far to turn back now. You need to be free. Kwame, and so they walked. Twisting paths, dark trees, strange sounds. Then they saw it. A small wooden hut hidden behind trees. It looked old and broken, like it hadn't been touched in decades. The air grew heavy. Kwame froze. This place is creepy. I know, his dad whispered, but we're here. Standing outside the hut was the old woman. Her white hair was wild. Her face was wrinkled like dry leather. She had no teeth, and her eyes looked tired, but powerful. She held her walking stick like a weapon. When she saw Kwame, she narrowed her eyes. It's her, Kwame whispered. She's the one. The old woman looked at them carefully. Yes. What do you want? Kwame's father stepped forward and bowed his head politely. Good afternoon, Ma. We are sorry for disturbing. You spat on me, the woman interrupted sharply. I remember everything like it just happened yesterday. Her voice was dry and strong. My son was foolish. Please find it in your heart to forgive him. The old woman's eyes burned with anger. The wound is still fresh. You think a simple apology can heal it? She turned and began walking back into her hut. Kwame took a step forward. Wait, old woman. We'll pay you. A lot of money. You won't have to live in this forest anymore. You can move to the city. She turned slowly and stared at Kwame. Her eyes were sharp, angry, cold. His father didn't know what to say. What can we do to fix this? He asked. The woman stood in silence for a moment, her face unreadable. Then she spoke quietly. There is only one way. Let the boy live in this same hut he mocked. He must suffer the discomfort he laughed at. Kwame's mouth fell open. What? Never! I can't live here! Look at this place. It's dirty, it's dark, it smells like smoke. But his father said nothing. That night, things got worse. Much worse. Kwame woke up screaming. His bed was soaked, not with sweat, but with fear. The next morning, Kwame packed his bags. He walked downstairs in simple clothes. His face was tired. His eyes were empty. Where are you going? His dad asked. Kwame didn't answer, but the look on his face said it all. He was going back. Back to the woman. It was the only way. The sun was going down when Kwame finally reached the forest. Hut again. He stood in front of it. But it wasn't the old woman who answered the door. Instead, a young woman stood there. She looked around Kwame's age, maybe a little younger. I'm looking for the old woman that lives here, Kwame said, sounding tired and annoyed. You mean my grandma? The girl asked. Before he could answer, the sound of footsteps came from behind the trees. The old woman returned, walking slowly with her stick, herbs tied in bundles in her other hand. Kwame stared at her with fury in his eyes. I'm here, he said coldly. The old woman didn't say a word. She simply pointed to a tiny hut behind her main house. It looked like it had been built for animals, not humans. That's your room, she said. Kwame clenched, his fists. He felt humiliated, but he had no choice. Finally, with a heavy sigh, Kwame pulled the cloth aside and entered the tiny hut. The smell of earth and old wood filled his nose. He didn't sleep that night. He paced up and down the hut, angry and frustrated. The real work began the next day. The old woman gave him chores. Fetch firewood, sweep the surroundings, carry water, wash clothes. Kwame hated it, but he did it. He forced himself. One day, after doing all his chores, the old woman gave him a final task. Today, I want water from the river, deep inside the forest, far, very far. You'll walk past the hills. The river is hidden. Only a few know the path, she said. Then she turned and walked back into her hut. Kwame sighed and set out. The forest was rough. He passed trees that looked the same. He wasn't even sure if he was going the right way anymore. Hours passed. His legs grew weak, his eyes blurred. Finally, he collapsed face first into the dirt. Darkness. When Kwame opened his eyes, he gasped. He was still on the ground, but something was strange. The pot was full. He turned sharply. There, standing under the shade of a tall tree, was the young lady he met earlier, the old woman's granddaughter. She nodded. I'm Zawadi, she said, offering her hand. Kwame, he replied, taking it from her. From that day, Zawadi became his secret light in the darkness of the forest. She would help him when her grandma wasn't watching, collect firewood, wash clothes, or fetch water. When they went into the forest for chores, they talked, they laughed, they challenged each other. Who could climb a tree faster? Who had the best singing voice? Their bond grew deeper. Sometimes, at night, when the old woman was asleep, Zawadi would sneak out of her hut and tiptoe into Kwame's. They sat on the mat, whispering stories, making jokes, or just listening to the night sounds. Kwame began to feel alive again. It was like Zawadi was slowly healing a wound no one else could see. One night, as they sat together in the small hut, Kwame paused. Then Zawadi shook her head gently. No, never, never. Kwame was shocked. You mean, you've never dated anyone? No, she said. I've never even kissed a man. Kwame's eyes widened. Wait, are you saying you're still a... Zawadi looked down. Yes, I'm still a virgin. Kwame was speechless. You've gone through so much. Why haven't you? Zawadi looked up at him, her eyes soft but serious. Because I'm supposed to take care of my future. My grandmother always told me to wait. Wait for love. Wait for truth. Kwame swallowed hard. Suddenly, the tiny hut felt even smaller. I trust you, she said. You're not that kind of guy. Kwame didn't respond, because deep down, he wished he could be. That night, Kwame finally fell asleep on his mat after another long day of work and exhaustion. His chest rose and fell slowly, his face calm under the moonlight seeping through the hut's small opening. Then, footsteps. Soft, barefoot, quiet as the wind. Zawadi. She gently pushed aside the cloth covering the hut entrance and stepped in. The shadows danced across her face. Her chest rose and fell as if a storm raged inside her. She took one step closer, her eyes locked on Kwame, who shifted a little in his sleep. The sound of her steps made his eyes slowly flutter open. He sat up, confused, then surprised. Zawadi, he whispered, rubbing his face. She stood frozen, but her eyes held a storm of emotions, confusion, longing, and something Kwame couldn't quite understand. When she finally stood in front of him, she looked him in the eyes. Her voice was shaking. I couldn't sleep, she said quietly. I was thinking about you, all night, every night. Kwame's heart started beating faster. Zawadi, what's going on? He asked, sensing something serious. She knelt beside him on the mat. I need you, she said, her voice cracking. Please, I want you to break my virginity. The words hit Kwame like a thunderbolt. He froze. What? Tears were already falling down her cheeks. Why not? Kwame took her hands in his. His own voice was trembling. Because you're different, Kwame said gently, brushing a tear from her cheek. You're pure, kind. You're trying to protect your future, even from yourself. Zawadi broke down in tears. Kwame pulled her into a gentle embrace. He held her, not with desire, but with something deeper, something soft, something real. Then Zawadi stood up. I should go back, she said quietly. I think that's best, Kwame replied gently. She turned to leave, but just before walking out, she looked back at him. Thank you for loving me the right way. The weeks passed slowly, like water dripping from a broken tap. Each day felt longer than the last. Kwame worked hard, sweeping the compound, cleaning the hut, fetching water, grinding herbs, helping the old woman in silence. But something inside him had changed. Something had grown, and finally, on the 49th day, the old woman called Kwame. She stood outside her hut, holding a wooden bowl and a flat stone. It's time, she said. Without a word, Kwame followed her deep into the forest, to a place he had never seen. There was a small clearing surrounded by stones. The old woman placed the bowl on the ground. She lit candles. She whispered ancient prayers. Silence. The wind stopped. The forest fell still. It is done, the old woman said. You are free. But freedom was not the end of the story. The next morning, Kwame packed his small bag. It wasn't much, just a shirt, a few things he came with, and a new heart that felt heavier than it ever had before. He walked up to the old woman's hut, ready to say goodbye. From the corner of the hut, Zawadi stood silently. Tears filled her eyes, but she said nothing. Kwame saw her. He took a step toward her. But before he could speak, her grandmother rushed. To her, Zawadi's face was pale. Her lips trembled. Then, she vomited. Again. And again. The old woman stared at her in shock. Are you all right? I'm fine, Grandma. But her eyes were filled with guilt. The old woman narrowed her eyes suspiciously. She reached for her bag and pulled out a small bundle of leaves. She ran a local test. When the leaves turned blue, the old woman's hand froze midair. Her face went white. Then she stood up slowly, turned to Zawadi, and said in a whisper, "You're pregnant." Zawadi's breath caught in her throat. She looked down, then up. The truth was too heavy. The old woman stepped back, shocked. Her voice grew loud. "Who is responsible?" Zawadi said nothing. "Who?" The old woman screamed again, trembling. Kwame stood frozen. Zawadi slowly pointed to Kwame. The old woman gasped. Her lips quivered. "You!" Kwame took a shaky step forward. It was never planned. We didn't... You've destroyed her life!" The old woman shouted, tears burning her eyes. She stormed into her hut, shaking with fury. Kwame's eyes widened in fear. She came back holding a gourd and an old charm bag. She raised it high. But just before she could cast the spell, Zawadi threw herself in front of Kwame. No, she faced her grandmother, tears running down her cheeks. "It wasn't his fault. I chose him." The old woman's voice dropped. "What will become of me?" She trembled. "I gave you everything," she said softly. "My life, my years, to protect your path." "I never wanted this path," Zawadi said. "These are my choices, my mistakes, my love." The old woman broke. "You're just like me," she whispered. "I said those same words once, to my own mother." Silence. Then she looked at Kwame. "There is only one way." "What is it? I'll do it. Anything." "I don't care what it costs." She looked away. "It will cost me." Kwame froze. "Your life?" he asked, voice trembling. The old woman nodded slowly. "Only the one who cast the curse can end it. Fully." Zawadi fell to the ground, sobbing. "No, no, Grandma, please." But the old woman smiled for the first time in years. She pulled them together. She looked calm, strong, peaceful. "Kwame," she said, "take care of my daughter." Zawadi looked confused. "What do you mean?" "You both can go now," the old woman said. "Live a normal life." "But what about the sacrifice?" Kwame asked. The old woman smiled gently. "You gave your pain, she gave her heart. And that's why I give you mine." Zawadi wept into her shoulder. "I don't want to go, not without you." "You must," she said. With one final blessing, the old woman raised her hands and placed them on their heads. "You are blessed. You are free. Go." As the sun reached its peak, the old woman took her final breath, alone, at peace, smiling.